A tip of the cap to you, and thank you for joining us on the Pilot Money Guys. On this episode, or flight as we call them, we're going to talk more than a little aviation news, as that is our topic today. And it's really talking about the airlines. And we're honored to have the Aero Crew News folks joining us today. I'm your host, wealth manager, and airline captain Robert Eklund, call sign Rubber Mallet. Per usual, I am joined by certified financial planner, former F-16 and 737 pilot, Charlie, the Godfather Mattingly. Welcome, Godfather.
All right. Welcome, Rubber Mallet. I think I'm going to have to take over the MC duties today.
Yeah, I wasn't even at this one, so it's kind of a misnomer. I wasn't a part of this. I apologize. I was not available for the
you missed it.
For the recording. But we've got a good show for you today. We've got the Aero Crew News folks, veritable experts in the airline industry, and produce news that I actually consume daily. So I'm pretty anxious to hear this one. And we're going to welcome Craig Pieper and Scott Rehn.
Right on. These guys are airline pilots at other major airlines, and they also have an interesting story, interesting business, Aero Crew News and Aero Crew Solutions. And we'll be talking about those along with airline news, what's going on in the hiring world of contracts, all kinds of interesting stuff today. But first, I will say that we are not representing any airline today. All opinions are our own. And this podcast is sponsored by Leading Edge Financial Planning. Well, Scott, again, Craig, thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And I'm going to go through your bios real quick. Let's see, Scott. You got an interesting bio where, again, major airline pilot. I believe you're on the Airbus, but you're also, and I stole this off of your LinkedIn page, Scott. You're you started the Aero Crew Solutions, CEO there. We'll talk about what that is in a second. Pilot career consultant, corporate recruiting, and motivational speaker. So, Scott, we're glad to have you, man. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the invitation and being here today with you.
Right on. Absolutely. Craig, we've got you as the publisher and founder of Aero Crew News, responsible for the content, website design, and organization of all the material and people producing the magazine. So it's a great magazine, and I read that quite a bit. A lot of interesting material in there as well. And both of you guys, I think, went to Embry-Riddle. Is that right?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, very cool.
We actually didn't meet back then either, though, which is odd. We were there about the same times, but we didn't know each other back then.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, very cool. Well, first, Scott, I'll start with you, man. So what is Aero Crew Solutions, and how did you start that?
So Aero Crew Solutions was started in 2010. I was working at my current airline right now, and I had a lot of free time, and I wanted to help pilots get to their goal of usually a major airline. So we started the company just from scratch, just with one employee, with myself. Started with initially hosting job fairs around the country. We were also doing resume reviews, application reviews, interview preps, just trying to connect a recruiter from an airline face-to-face with a pilot. And so we started doing that, just start building our brand from there. We've expanded now into corporate recruiting, whether it's for corporate positions, and we are recruiting for certain airlines as well. So it's been a really good experience to take somebody that needs help with their career, where they just don't know what to do or how to do it correctly. We're filling out a resume or filling out an application, preparing them for their interview. So we've done that with our counselors. Everybody that works for me is a former recruiter, so we do have the wealth and knowledge of what it takes to be successful at your interview.
Nice. I love your LinkedIn page. It says, hey, your passion is just helping other pilots find a career and a job that they love. So that's awesome. And I know you all are probably crazy busy right now with all the hiring going on and things like that. Is that the case?
It is right now. Yes, we are very, very busy. It's been amazing to see the transformation prior to COVID, during COVID, and then post-COVID environments when it comes to the amount of hiring that's going on. So anybody who's watching this that is kind of on the fence about being a pilot, it is the greatest opportunity for you right now to either start training to become a pilot, or if you're currently a pilot, the opportunities are endless, where you could basically go and work for any company that you want to, as long as you put the effort in and you know exactly what it takes to be successful. You'll have that opportunity there.
It is an exciting time to be an airline pilot, whether it's, you're just starting out or or at another airline. The contracts are happening right now, so it's a pretty amazing time. But Craig, so you started the Aero Crew newsletter, and you can talk to that in just a second. But how are the two companies? Are they related? Are they combined? Are they overlap? Is that the case?
So Aero Crew News actually is the only connection is that Scott owns half of Aero Crew News, and we kind of combined our branding together, called for Aero Crew, just to kind of because Aero Crew Solutions had a huge following already, and we just figured the Aero Crew News would be the magazine of Aero Crew Solutions, and that's how it kind of grew from that.
Craig, I think you told me one time it kind of started as the grid. Is that kind of what is that? Explain that.
It started out as actually, we call it the regional grid. Before I actually met Scott, I had this little newsletter that I was sending out to pilots, and it started because someone on this social media platform suggested to compare the regional airline contracts. So I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. So I started doing this, and it started to grow and grow, and then I noticed that if I started to add articles to it, people would actually read it and actually pass it around more, and we'd be able to get more information there. So it's kind of just about sharing information with other pilots, getting information from other pilots from other regional airlines, and putting their contract comparison data inside this Excel spreadsheet. Essentially, is what it was. This is now morphed into an online platform where you can sit there and literally compare airline contracts side by side, like you're buying a TV. You just select the airlines you want to compare, and it just automatically compares them together. So it's actually really intuitive, really great. And
yeah, I love the magazine, and for those that are listening that have not seen the magazine, it's just aerocrewnews.com, and it's monthly. Is that right? Monthly.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's got it's got education on health and fitness, even financial. So we've written an article or two for you guys, and so that's been fun to do. What are the formats as far as, obviously we have online, but I think you can download like a PDF format too. Is that right?
That's correct. So if you go into the issues tab on the left-hand side, you'll see all the latest issues. It gives you click on the March one right there. The PDF is good for when you're ready to get on a plane and you want to go and you want to read it while you're on a deadhead or on a flight. You can easily do that.
Transition away from just the magazine and back to the industry in general. You talked about just an exciting time to be a pilot. What do you think? I mean, what would you tell the young transitioning pilot, or even an older military transitioning pilot? What are you most excited about in the industry? What are you seeing?
Well, what we're seeing is a continued growth in the airline industry when it comes to hiring, when it comes to ordering new aircraft, when it comes to like a longer term projection, where the market itself, through acquisition and mergers that we saw, in the mid 2000s, and then we continue to see right now, even with the merger with JetBlue and Spirit Airlines, is a consolidation of the industry, which is making it more stable overall. So we don't have companies that are trying to undercut each other with pricing, and then we have a price war, and then nobody makes money. So if you are looking for like a long-term stable career, especially from a military transition standpoint, it's a great opportunity to get hired at an airline, have a wonderful career, where we've even seen upgrades to go less than 1 year at like, for example, Delta Airlines right now. So if somebody is watching this and is wondering about, hey, do I make that long-term investment? And it's not cheap to become a pilot these days. It could be anywhere between $75,000 to $100,000 just in your initial flight training to be trained as a pilot. And then you have to spend, a year or two flight instructing or some other way to gain your flight hours. And then you can work at either a corporate operator or a regional airline, and then gain your time and then eventually make it to a major airline or one of the larger cargo companies. And we don't see that actually slowing down anytime soon. I know that during post-COVID, we were hiring anywhere between 100 to 200 pilots a month at the three largest carriers. That's starting to slow down just a little bit right now, but we're still, pushing 100 a month. So if somebody is looking to make that transition to the airline industry, or even just becoming a pilot as well, it's a great opportunity for you to come in. And we expect that for at least another 4 to 5 years based upon the retirements alone. And that doesn't even include the growth from the airline, the internal growth within itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Craig, what do you think? What are you seeing out there as far as, just comparing these airlines and the growth, and what's on your mind?
It's a great time to be a pilot. That's for
Yeah.
sure. It's definitely like Scott was saying, it's definitely a lot of growth right now. It seems like the airlines are just wanting to continue to grow, continue to suck up as many pilots as they can from the regional carriers. We've even noticed that there's been a large dip in the corporate world too, where pilots are leaving the corporate world and going to higher paying jobs at the regionals and or the even the majors at this point. So those guys are also leaving the corporate world, causing a vacuum over there. And we saw a huge one of the main corporate divisions. We had we just posted an article just recently about a upgrade time was like 18 years. Now went to about 14 months, 4 month period of time. So, and that's a very well known corporate operation that had tons of pilots. They're just losing pilots like crazy right now because they have more lucrative opportunities at the airlines. And this is something that's really never been happened before I think in the history of the corporate world.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting times right now to see what's going on. It used to be in the past. It was the first place to offer me a job. That's why I came here. Right? You know what I mean? Now it's like they're getting 3 or 4 CJOs, and they're like they have a choice of where they want to go. And in all my years with doing the grid and the truck contract comparisons and trying to give pilots information about what airline to work for, what it really comes down to is where they want to live and the bases that the airline offers. That's like the biggest thing I've noticed is like doesn't matter if the airline pays $210 an hour to start or maybe $205 an hour to start. It's all about where the airline is based and can I drive to work. That's the biggest thing nowadays. It seems like.
I totally agree. Craig and Scott, I was a lifelong commuter, my own doing. And man, I'll tell you what, I couldn't even imagine the quality of life increase when you live in base, live in domicile. So I think that's a great point, Craig, especially for people out there shopping around because they do have the choice now. It's like, That's what I ask young pilots when they talk to me, where do you think I should go? I'm like, well, where do you want to live? And where does your wife live? Where's she from? That's where you're going to end up. So go to that airline. Yeah. Do you guys, and Scott, we'll start with you, but the pilot shortage is real. We've been talking about it for a long time. COVID obviously was like a kind of just hitting the pause button. Well, wait a minute, maybe we don't have a pilot shortage. And then we quickly went back to, yep, we still have a pilot shortage. Do you all see, it's, we got the age 65 restriction. We've got single pilot stuff out there that's being talked about, I think is a long way off. But I would think that these airlines and the industry in general is looking for ways to solve this problem other than just hiring. Scott, what do you think?
When it comes to the hiring, there's been a lot of factors, leading up to this, where we are right now today. Before COVID, we were seeing a tremendous shortage in the regional levels, and it was starting to creep up to the low-cost carriers. Post-COVID, because during that time period, we didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know when the travel demand was going to come back. And then what we saw at all the airlines across the boards were paid early out, retirement packages, where pilots were paid 2 to 3 years, at a maybe 60-70% reduced pay. They're getting health insurance paid for, plus 401k deposits being made. So a lot of pilots financially, do I stay? Do I commute? Is it worth it? They did some calculations. What's the stress of me going to work and flying and everything else? So we had massive retirements happen across the board. And then what happened was, we parked some airplanes as well. And then we had demand basically, shoot through the roof. And it started in 2021. And so because we had this tremendous demand, the airlines basically opened the floodgates when it comes to hiring. And the hiring is something that we haven't seen literally since like the 60s and 70s, where it's just been full blown. And so there's a lot of things that, led to that, with people leaving the airline industry sooner. We've had massive amount of retirements, and you can go online, you can go to the grid, you can see all this information about the retirements and everything else. And so that's where we are right now. When it comes to kind of solving the pilot shortage, we will continue to see, this trend of hiring happening for the next 4 to 5 years. Do I think we are going to see age 67 passed? No. That was just recently kind of working its way through Congress right now, and it failed. It didn't get attached to any amendments. We're looking to see if they could lower the ATP minimums from 1,500 hours, maybe down to 1,000 hours, or maybe from 1,000 down to 500 hours. The lobby group for Colgan 3407 is strong, so that's not going to pass, especially since it's, you know, Chuck Schumer. He's a lead, you know, the minority leader in the Senate right now. That's not going to pass anytime soon. When it comes to like the single pilot operations, I don't see that. You know, you're starting to see that in, you know, the Airbus technology on the 350. They're experimenting that. The only thing I would see occur for that as of right now within the next 5 years would be if you're flying a long haul flight where you've had 4 pilots or 3 pilots, you may be able to eliminate one of those pilots in an operation like that, where you only have 1 pilot up front. But then again, that might be an issue that we saw with the German wings and some of the other accidents around the world. Is somebody willing to take that risk or not? So I don't see that occurring anytime soon. I say that now, but then, you know, technology is moving so fast, you never know. But no, I think we're still going to have, you know, continued shortage at the major level. And, you know, the easiest way for those of you, you know, watching at home is, you know, we saw it at the regional level, you know, and you can think of it as a rising tide, like in the ocean. And what's happening is as we go up from the regionals, you start to see it, like Craig was talking about earlier, in the corporate marketplace as well. And now we're seeing it at the low cost carrier marketplace. And eventually we'll start seeing it at the major level where that shortage is real. I mean, American Airlines right now is hiring people at job fair events on site.
Wow.
Which, you know, when Craig and I started, you know, applying to the major airlines, and for me, myself in 2006, that was unheard of. Nobody did that. And it's because the shortage is real. They want to grab the pilot right away before somebody else has that opportunity. So I think that will continue. So if you are in the marketplace, like, hey, maybe I'm a career changer, somebody who I'm, you know, I'm in the mid 40s and I'm like, hey, I don't really like my job, but I truly have a passion for aviation. Being a pilot is something that I wanted to do. Now is the time to do it. And we were saying this during COVID. Now is the perfect time to do it because nobody's hiring. Gain those flight hours, and then you can be successful in your airline career and make a lot of money, and you're not working hard for it either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you said about some of the obstacles for single pilot, some of the obstacles for, you know, raising the retirement age. And I read something too that made sense was like, I'm not sure the airlines want 67, 68, 69-year-old pilots because A, they're expensive, they're inefficient, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of obstacles there that that would suggest that the hiring trends continue for a while, like you said, Scott. But Craig, I'm not sure if you're keeping up with some of these schools that go on, like the ones that you just go to for a year and a half. I'm not sure you even need a college degree. You come out as a qualified pilot. I think Southwest has one, Destination 225. I think United has one, Delta. I think Delta goes through Auburn University, if I remember correctly. But Craig, what do you know? Do you know about those schools and what that's doing for the industry?
They still need their flight time. The bottom line is they still need their flight time, no matter how much no matter how much these flight schools are pumping students out. You still have to get your 1,500 hours as a flight. So you finish your flight school in, let's say, 9 months, right? You get with that, you have your commercial multi-engine, you have your CFIs, and so now what do? You have 250, maybe 300 hours at that point in time. You still need another 1,200 hours before you can get an airline job, right? So most people just do the thing as flight instructor, which helps fill that flight instructor void right now. I just saw a flight school yesterday offering $10,000 and moving bonuses, moving expenses paid to come work for them. So I mean, these flight schools are having a hard time getting flight instructors now because of this also. Wow. So they get the 1,500 hours and they right away they're hired by a regional airline. And what I've seen now more is not really that there's not a need for first officers; it's more of a need for captains now. So along with Scott mentioned the Colgan crash, also during another rule, which was 1,000 hours of Part 121 airline flight time in order to be able to upgrade to captain. So there's a huge shortage of experienced first officers and or captains available to fly these regional airlines. So that's becoming another issue too. So not only that's the first officers coming in, it's getting the qualifications and the flight time to be able to upgrade to captain. So that's probably the bigger hurdle nowadays than actually finding first officers. So these flight schools, they're definitely, a good thing. They're definitely a need for them, right? They're pumping students out. But like I said, it's the issue is the 1,000 hours
Yeah.
of 121 time. And once these captains are get some more experience, get 2 years into the company or 3 years in the company, they're getting swooped up by either a low-cost carrier or a major airline, a legacy carrier. So they're pumping right out. They're just moving right along right out there. So they're having a hard time just getting these first officers the experience as a 121 pilot. I venture to see that eventually. I've been saying this for years. I think the regional airline model is going to go away. It's at some point in time, it's just not going to be sustainable anymore. They're not going to be able to sustain, and it's just not going to have. You'll have a bunch of first officers, but no captains to fly the planes.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do then? And you just have to suck up. The major airlines have to just incorporate those pilots into the scenario list at some point in time, and to get them those their flight hours and their flight experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's as you were talking, Craig, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, how is the regional model sustainable? They're paying some of these pilots $300 an hour, depending on. I know that's not a permanent thing, but Scott, what do you think? Any inputs there?
Yeah, so what you're seeing at the regional level is especially since post-COVID, is they're changing the benefits package, whether it's the amount of money they pay you or some of the other benefits. They are increasing compared to what Craig and I experienced when we were at our respective regional airlines. You're also starting to see changes when it comes to the different flow programs at the wholly owned carriers. I know that United recently changed their requirements where they're going to start forcing people to stay. So if you want to stay in the flow program, you're going to have to get a certain number of captain hours before you can come over. But it'll give them a little bit more stability when it comes to their regional feed as well. And then also it allows them to kind of grow the pilot, become a captain before they make the transition over to the mainline carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see things like that changing as well. You might see some airlines actually start doing what they're doing in Europe or in Asia, where they have pilot training centers and programs where the airline itself will start paying for the entire cost of the training program. Sort of like an apprenticeship though, but it will require a certain number of years at that regional carrier to make sure that feed is protected, and then they can transition over to the mainline carrier. Mm-hmm. That hasn't been like anything officially announced. That's just my opinion, just to kind of make kind of like all these bonuses that you're paying out. Why don't you just make the investment in the pilot, and then this pilot comes over and he works for your regional airline for a certain number of years. That's something that I would do because I think it's more of a long-term investment. Now, but the problem is they're looking for short-term results,
right?
And not thinking more longer term. So.
Yeah, almost like a Band-Aid approach right now, just till they figure out what's going on. And yeah, it's interesting. It's as if you could see the airlines, these major airlines, absorbing some of the regional and just making their own, and they're the costs are so expensive anyway. But shifting gears a little bit, the big talk now, I think everybody's just super, maybe, I don't know if excited is the right word, but maybe on edge about all the new contracts. Delta led the way and just passed theirs. I think I saw a fact in Aero Crew News today I was reading where United is maybe expected to follow suit very quickly. I would guess American. I think American's very close, I would guess. What do you all think? What is the landscape looking like? What do you all expect, and what are you seeing? Is Delta set the bar? Will anybody kind of exceed that? What do you think, Scott?
You are correct. Yeah, just recently Delta just ratified their contract at the beginning of March right now. So they did set the bar, and they set the bar quite high, which, I guess puts a lot of pressure on the other carriers, especially in a recruiting standpoint, is that a lot of people, they just follow the money. They'll go online, they'll go to the grid, they'll see, okay, who's paying the most, and then they'll start their search there. And that's something that we talked about earlier as well. And it puts the pressure on the other companies where American, just announced that, yeah, we want to give the American Airlines pilots the same contract when it comes to pay rates as Delta gets. And I know with Scott Kirby at United, it's the same thing. And we'll start seeing Southwest come, and then you'll start seeing the FedEx and the UPS pilots. And the reason is there's just not enough pilots. if we had more pilots available, just like anything else, supply and demand, and we've seen that before in any sort of marketplace, it'll continue on the airline side for a long time, because those who offer the rates, those who offer the other quality of life items that are not monetary, those are the carriers that will succeed and continue to succeed. So, Delta's, if you look at it going backwards, Delta has led the way a lot, and the other carriers have catched up or surpassed Delta, which for anybody who's coming into the industry or looking to come into the industry, it's a great opportunity for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you look at these other airlines like like Southwest, for example, and it's just like, man, it's kind of the writing is on the wall. There's a supply shortage, and there is a price that's kind of been set, and it's like, man, how could you? I guess you could drag your feet a little bit for whatever reason to kind of see what happens with the other airlines, but man, it seems a little bit inevitable that, like you said, Scott, I mean, if you're going to hold on to your pilots, you've got to be able to compete. But Craig, what do you think?
You mentioned that article about United Airlines we posted just recently on our Facebook, which was headlines: United anticipates a new pilot agreement by March 31st. Their SEC filing that they filed on Monday this week was an 8-K filing. You probably know more about than I did, but basically it was talking about the first quarter profit results. So they're anticipating a loss in profit for the first quarter of this year in anticipation of a new contract being signed. It doesn't mean that the contract is going to be signed by March 31st or even release the pilots by March 31st. It just means that they're kind of accounting for more expense of the pilots. So it's I know that we did get a little bit of a flack on Facebook about this article a little bit. Some pilots were saying that there's no way it's going to happen within 2 weeks. It can't be voted on within 2 weeks, which is true. It's 100% true. But United Airlines was just anticipating that there's a possibility of they're basically shuffling some money around, I guess, is what a better term, I guess, right? To account for this extra expense. Now, I know American Airlines CEO has also been saying a few things too about what he's going to provide for his pilots. He was going to do Delta plus 1% and Delta profit sharing, a couple other things that he had thrown on there that he was also reporting on this, I think, last week. I almost feel like this is like the CEO who's trying to, like, hey, look at what we're doing over here. Look at what we're doing over here right now. But I heard from some people over at American Airlines that there was nothing really shown yet, as far as nothing on paper, as far as like anything coming forward from the negotiating committee as far as a contract anytime soon. So these talks continue, and obviously we can't get information from the negotiating committee because you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, as they say, trying to negotiate and trying to say, oh, I don't want that, I want this, So just gotta have the negotiating committee and the company work together to get these contracts together and then produce them to the pilots. But like Scott was saying, it's just going to be a rising tide of all these airlines just going to keep on paying more. And when does this rising tide stop? That's a great question. We don't know. What's going to happen in the future. I mean, at some point in time, the ticket prices are going to get higher. They have to pay for these these pilots, and I could see that we'll see more and more cities lose service because there's no pilots to staff those services. And they'll do them with buses or whatever. Like I know from Allentown to Newark, they actually run a bus and they call it a flight, and you actually get on this bus behind security, and you think you could actually drive over to a plane and get on the plane.
Yeah.
No, you actually exit the airport and start getting the highway. And people look around like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I could see that happening more and more as those smaller cities that could actually be serviced by buses. They'll do that, to feed the hubs and bring those passengers into their hubs to fly them to other destinations that are farther away.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, it's
So
neat. It's like you talk about with American Airlines CEOs talking about something, and you wonder if there's some gamesmanship between the CEOs and just saying, "Hey, look what I'm going to do," and you kind of bidding against each other essentially to try to maybe bid someone. Who knows? I can't even imagine what goes on at that C-suite level, and on the negotiating committees and the strategies. Sometimes I think from the pilot perspective, at least from my perspective, it just doesn't seem to make sense. For example, why not just go ahead and negotiate with your pilot group, get it done quickly? You kind of know what's out there. Again, like we talked about, there's a shortage. There's a contract out there with Delta, so just make it happen. But who knows the strategy that's out there? Scott, what do you think, man? It's pretty interesting.
Well, I think the strategy moving forward, are you talking about contracts or what?
Yeah, just contracts and the the world of negotiations, and it's just fascinating. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that or
Yeah, no,
insight.
it's, like you said earlier in the beginning, is that Delta set the bar, right? And so all the other executives are looking at, okay, we have to match Delta because pilots now have the opportunity to go everywhere and anywhere. And we're starting to see, pilots leave one major airline for another. And same for corporate operators like executive jet EJM contract, where they're getting paid anywhere between $200,000 to $300,000. They're willing to quit that job and start all over again because of the opportunities and stability and growth at the regional, or not the regional, but the major airline. So you'll start seeing companies start matching what Delta has to offer. Maybe some might even leapfrog. I don't think anything more than a couple percentage points. We're not looking at anything greater than 10-15%, probably anywhere between 2 to 5% on top of Delta when it comes to pay. But then you have to look at the overall cost of the contract itself when it comes to what we call soft money items, things that are not hourly, but you work less but get paid more. So we're starting to see stuff like that occur. We see, if you look at the Delta contract, if you actually read it, you'll see the improvements that are made and what specifically goes on with that, which it puts pressure on everybody below. So the low cost carriers, the smaller cargo carriers as well, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on them to start raising their rates, and you're starting to see that right now, and you'll continue to see that for the rest of this fiscal year 23, and then continue for 24 and 25 as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating year. I think a lot will happen this year. Whether the contracts get passed or not, I don't know, like Delta, but I'm just betting that there's going to be some agreements in principle probably happen by the end of the year. A couple more airlines. I just kind of can't help but to think they have to, because if I'm running a schoolhouse trying to get pilots on board and they're just leaving for, like you said, they're following that contract, Scott, that's just, it's going to happen, and they've got to try to prevent that. I would think. But just a fascinating world. You mentioned earlier, Scott, like the JetBlue Spirit merger / acquisition. What's going on there? I mean, I've not been able to keep up with it. Any insight that you've kept up with?
Yeah, so there's the Department of Transportation did sue, and the Department of Justice did sue against this merger right now. And this is just me. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but a lot of it, if you look at what JetBlue currently has, it's called the Northeast Alliance with American Airlines, where they do, work together to kind of strengthen the alliance with the operation in JFK and Boston as well. And if you look at the operation or the agreement that they have there, also by adding Spirit into the mix, how's that all going to work out? This merger was supposed to be basically a low-cost airline merger, but it has American Airlines kind of thrown in there. You might see JetBlue divest themselves of some slots, whether it's in JFK or maybe some in Boston as well, to make this go approval. The Northeast Alliance might be dead with JetBlue in order for them to merge together. I don't know what's going to happen. You have to keep an accurate look at it with the court system and see when they go back and forth to see kind of what the arguments are on either side and see what the judge has to rule. And then just move forward from there. I couldn't tell you about what they're trying to do. Yeah,
I gave up trying to follow it, probably a few months ago, and then it popped back up in the news again, and I was just like, what in the world is going on there? But anyway, I guess you can see why they want to get together. I mean, Spirit's huge down in Florida. JetBlue's, not owns, but is quite big up in Boston, JFK, I believe. And so I'm assuming that those are the synergies they're looking for. But yeah, any other things that they could get out of that you all know of?
If you remember, JetBlue tried to acquire Virgin Atlantic 3 or 4 years ago. They got beat out by Alaska Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So I think JetBlue just wants to grow, and they're trying to position themselves to be a bigger carrier. And what's the best way to do it is just to double your size by acquiring another airline. And they didn't want to. If you remember correctly, there was a bidding war between Frontier and JetBlue to purchase Spirit, and JetBlue put out an astronomical number and won the bid at the end of the day. I think, I don't know personally, but I think a lot of Spirit higher ups really wanted to go with Frontier because they had the kind of more of the same model as Frontier did. But in the end, they just, money wins. So you gotta wonder what their ultimate goal is as far as how big they want to be, how JetBlue wants to be, and how big JetBlue wants to be, and where they want to go with their growth. Again, it's about just airlines growing right now and continue to expand. And I don't think they wanted to be left behind, so to speak, behind like Frontier and Spirit as a smaller carrier than them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fascinating. But as we come up on our time here, I just want to touch base with each of you one more time. Just anything exciting that on your mind, what's going on in your world. And Scott, we'll start with you. I know you've talked about, hey, it's just an exciting time to be an airline pilot, whether you're applying for one, transitioning to one, senior captain, whatever. But Scott, in your world of all the things that you do, what kind of stands out? Maybe something you're working on or just seeing right now. Any thoughts from you?
Sure. No, a couple things going on. If you, like we said earlier, if you're looking to make a transition in your career to become a pilot, or if you are in high school or college and you're looking to become a pilot, it's a great opportunity right now. Okay, not only with the amount of hiring going on, but we're looking at a monetary number as well. Careers could range anywhere between $10 to $15 million. And a lot of times, if you're looking at what they call in the airline world, like a defined contribution, the B fund, they used to call it back in the day, where let's say you make $100,000, the company's going to match or basically give you a 16% on top of that to basically go right into your 401k, where you don't have to contribute a dollar of any of your income if you want to. And where you get to a certain point is that you fill up on the IRS max each year, which is phenomenal. We're looking, I don't know, you probably know that number. It's what, the mid 60s, or it could be even higher. Like if you're over 50, is that correct?
Yes. If you're 50 or over, it's 73,500, which is incredible.
Yeah. And so people are doing that, surprisingly. If you take, 15% of your salary and you match what, every airline's offering basically about 16%, you will have, a multi-million-dollar 401k. And I'm saying that through my own experience. I'm sure Craig is as well. It's a great opportunity for that. So you can provide for your family, provide a good, standard of living as well as days off. I don't think that people realize how many days off when you get to a major airline based upon the contract that you have with the union, the number of days off. So quality of life is also very important. And what's great about an airline pilot career is you have somebody like me who's worked for a major airline now for 16 years, that I'm still a first officer, and I'm an international first officer flying the 350. And I love it. I don't want to upgrade right now, and it hurts my quality of life. So what I'm trying to say is that there's something for everybody at the airline level. Some people want to upgrade to captain. Some people want to fly a certain airplane. And that's an opportunity that a lot of people in their careers don't have. And what's nice about being an airline pilot is when you go to work, you go to work, and you get to go see some amazing cities, amazing countries. When you come home, you're done. You're not, you have no responsibilities like some other people do, like emails and phone calls and meetings and deadlines and late nights, early mornings. You do that with flying sometimes. You have early mornings, late nights, which all of us know. But when it comes to a good career, that's the biggest thing that I want to tell everybody. And that's why we have our company, Aero Crew Solutions. We have Aero Crew News. there's a lot of things that we are hosting. We have an event coming up here next month with Spirit Airlines. We're hosting a free 4-hour career prep seminar, and then you get to meet with a Spirit recruiter. And just like what Craig does with his magazine, it's fantastic, and it's all free. You know, we are very fortunate with our careers right now to be where we are. And we want to provide all the accurate information. So that's why it's important that you follow Aero Crew News on social media. We post the latest and breaking news. It's funny, like we went to the Women Aviation Conference. Everybody knows who we are. Everybody follows us, which is even more amazing, even all the managers. And like somebody told us, like, they know more about their company than before the press release officially comes out within the company. And so that's what we try to do with the Aero Crew brand, is that, you know, Craig and I are happy. We love our jobs. And if we can provide anybody with that advice on either on the Aero Crew Solution side when it comes to your career services, or on the news side, which is what Craig does, that's what I want everybody to take away from this podcast today, is that we are all here to help. Just like you're hosting this podcast and you get distributed for free, that's great. You know, we want everybody to get the right information from the people who know what's going on, and not something that you hear on the internet, you know, from some private forum that so-and-so heard or somebody's talked about, because you see that a lot too. But yeah, you know, whatever we could do on the career services side of the Aero Crew brand and Aero Crew Solutions, whether it's your resume, your application, your preps, events that we host, you know, we are here to help you succeed.
That's awesome. I love it, Scott. Man, your passion comes through for sure. And, you know, you're talking about the benefits of the airlines. We have our financial planning software, retirement planning software. We actually have to manipulate the software because it won't, you know, we have to kind of trick it to mimic the high contributions of our airline pilots, not to mention the other benefits such as healthcare and things like that is just tremendous. And so, you know, we don't really, our non-airline pilot type people, they don't believe that you can get a 16% non-elective contribution in 401k. That's just like unheard of in almost any other industry. So yeah, that's incredible. But Craig, what do you think? What are you seeing, you know, anything that you're working on in the world of the news that you're kind of excited about or just, you know, top of your mind?
Yeah, I was just thinking about something that Scott was talking about. No, I lost it. Sorry.
That's all right, man.
Edit that part out.
What I want to say about what Aero Crew News does, and Greg and his team, it's just absolutely amazing. You will not find breaking news quicker anywhere else other than in Aero Crew News. People send us information all the time. You know, they send us private messages, and we post the information. We verify it's correct, and we'll post it. And then the numbers from the posts themselves, it's fantastic. And, you know, Craig wants to make sure that everybody knows what's going on in the industry, and he leads a great team. And that's what, you know, on the news side, that's what Craig does. And I don't know if that's what you were going to say or not, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in there.
Yep. That's awesome. Craig, I don't know if it's come back to you or not yet, but
no, yeah, I actually was going to say that. So Scott mentioned that you know, at Women Aviation, everybody was like, they knew about us. They were the number one source for aviation news right now. I remember going to our first, I don't know, 5 years of job fairs trying to promote Aero Crew News, and people were like, "Who are you? What do you do?" And it's just amazing to go to these conferences now and be like, "Oh, Aero Crew, I follow you guys." And so everybody was like, they see our little logo on our shirts, like, "Oh, Aero Crew News, I follow you guys." So it's really cool, and it's definitely a great feeling to have this accomplishment, to get so big and to be like, you know, the number one source for people right now as far as when it comes to news. And you know, we like Scott said, we have a lot of sources. It's not just one source we get information from. People that message us on all our platforms, social media platforms, or email us, and we get all this information. We just post it out and verify it, of course, first, and post it. And you know, we've had some posts this. So I just want to share this. And so last year we had our social media reach was a little over 24 million. We've already exceeded that this year already, which is just phenomenal. It's not even in the first quarter yet. We've already exceeded that already. So this is going to be another phenomenal year for Aero Crew News. And we're just going to keep on chugging along and keep on sharing information, and keep helping pilots out and keep helping crew members out.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the tribe that you all have built. and you've become, like you're talking about, your value has allowed you to become, I'll just say, famous in that tribe. But that's because you're providing tremendous value, you know, and so that's really cool. But well, Craig, you know, in you and Scott have talked about how people can follow Aero Crew Solutions, Aero Crew News. But Craig, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, you know, how can they contact you, and what would you, how would you want them to do that?
Like I said, they do social media, give our channels on there. info@aerocrewnews.com is also a good way to reach us also. We just got a new phone number too. It's 484 new news.
Nice.
So yeah, that's our new phone number too. So we can also drop us a message there, call us, you know, whatever. I think that's about it.
That sounds good. I'll put the links to your all's, you know, of course, the news, Aero Crew News itself. I'll put that in the show notes, and the number, I'll add that as well. And Scott, you've talked about a couple different ways to contact you or follow you, but anything else you want to put out there for people to, if they want to use your services, especially?
Yeah, so the newest portion since post-COVID is a lot of the airlines have reached out to Aero Crew Solutions to recruit on their behalf. So if you are looking for a job, or if you have any questions about your career, you can sign up for a 15-minute consultation. It's absolutely free. Like we said, the theme of Aero Crew News and Aero Crew Solutions is we want to provide everything to free to pilots as we can, because we know what it's like to be in your shoes. We know what it's like, you know, struggling financially or struggling building your flight time hours. So if there's anything that we can do to help you out, either Craig or myself, that's why we have these companies. We're here for the right reasons. You know, if we can offer you something for free, we will. If it's something that we have to charge for, we'll charge for it. We'll be upfront for it. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me at aerocrewsolutions.com. If you're an international viewer, we do have a WhatsApp number, so you can always call us or message us either way. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever social media channel that you use. But yeah, we would love to hear from everybody who's watching this. And if you have any questions about either breaking news or career services, reach out to us.
Sweet. Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys, Craig and Scott. You guys are busy, man. It's you got a lot going on. Just keeping up with the social media feeds alone is a task, I know, but I know you've got good teams behind you and everything. So again, we thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out today, and we appreciate it. And maybe we'll have you on again sometime, and encourage everybody to check out the newsletter and use your services. And hopefully we'll see you at one of these conferences. I told Craig next year we're going to the one you all just did in Long Beach. What was that? The women's aviation. We're gonna do that one next year for sure. So maybe we'll see you there.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Thanks for the time today.
There we go.
All right, folks. That's it. I wasn't here for it, but Charlie, Scott, Craig, they did a great job. Couple of quotes for you to ponder on your drive or flight or morning ritual or whatever you're doing right now. And since our podcast today was aviation centric, here are a couple of aviation quotes. Pilots are a rare kind of human. They leave the ordinary surface of the world to purify their soul in the sky, and they come down to earth only after receiving the communion of the infinite.
Wow.
Jose Maria Velasco Ibarra. Apologies, my part Latino wife tried to coach me, but I clearly failed on that name. Terrible. The second one here. And like no other sculpture in the history of art, the dead engine and dead airframe come to life at the touch of a human hand and join their life with the pilot's own. Richard Bach in the book, A Gift of Wings. That's it. Let us be the first to welcome you to the final destination of Flight 54. It was Aero Crew News folks for joining us. Huge thank you to them. Would it be wrong to say you like this podcast? If not, we greatly appreciate reviews and subscribers. Please shoot us any questions you would like us to cover during the Q&A portion of the show. And remember, as Emerson said, the world makes way for those who know where they are going. And as I say, so plan accordingly. From all of us at the Pilot Money Guys, smooth rides and soft landings.
Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Leading Edge Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For additional information, please visit our website at www.leadingedgeplanning.com. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only It does not constitute investment advice, and it should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security. It does not take into account any investor's particular investment objectives, strategies, tax status, or investment horizon. You should consult your attorney or tax advisor. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change based on market and other conditions. These documents may contain certain statements that may be deemed forward-looking statements. Please note that any such statements are not guarantees of any future performance, and actual results or developments may differ materially from these projected. Any projections, market outlooks, or estimates are based upon certain assumptions and should not be construed as indicative of actual events that will occur. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such. Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Leading Edge Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For additional information, please visit our website at www.leadingedgeplanning.com. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute investment advice, and it should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security. It does not take into account any investor's particular investment objectives, strategies, tax status, or investment horizon. You should consult your attorney or tax advisor. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change based on market and other conditions. These documents may contain certain statements that may be deemed forward-looking statements. Please note that any such statements are not guarantees of any future performance, and actual results or developments may differ materially from these projected. Any projections, market outlooks, or estimates are based upon certain assumptions and should not be construed as indicative of actual events that will occur. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such.